my name is Rajane Battles, and for my policy and ethics blog, I will be talking about gun violence. The reason why I had chose this topic is because gun violence has become a big issue in our community and as a whole for our country. I have lost many friends to gun violence, and this is something that we battle with every single day. People are dying every day because someone behind a gun, and this is a topic that needs to be addressed and fixed soon. Gun violence is a global human rights issue. It's a daily tragedy affecting people around the world. Over 500 people die every day because of violence committed by firearms. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is easy access to firearms, which is the main drivers of gun violence. 44% of all homicides globally involves gun violence. 1.4 million firearms are related to death, and about 8 million new guns are produced every year. And with mass shootings, which is another big problem in our country, there has been 156 mass shootings, leaving 848 people dead, and it has probably increased by this time to now. What is happening to solve this problem? As I was looking over the internet, all I see is how we can stop gun violence, but nothing that actually is working to help prevent it. We can talk about it all day long, but we need action in place to bring it to a halt. So now we will hear from Officer Dorsey. He is a police officer in Chicago. I wanted to reach out outside of Missouri so we can hear how other people are feeling, not just how people are feeling in Missouri, because it is affecting more than just us. So here's Officer Dorsey.
I'm a police officer in the Chicagoland, and I'm a certified firearm instructor. I teach about gun laws, the gun safety, and gun violence that is permeating our area of Cook County in the Chicagoland area. There has been a renewed focus on gun laws in the wake of several mass shootings. Those conversations are generally focused on assault-style rifles. As someone who trains with assault-style rifles, and there's a renewed focus on school shootings and how we respond to mass shootings and to active shooters, I do not see why any common civilian needs an assault-style rifle to carry out the protection of his house and home, as is argued. I do believe that the laws governing the acquisition of assault-style rifles does need to be looked at, does need to be changed. There needs to be background checks. There needs to be different checks and balances that stop these people who are carrying out these mass attacks from having access to these guns. What I don't agree with is when these national talks about these gun laws, which are really specifically on assault-style rifles, these people who are arguing this bring up Chicago and say, well, there are mass murders and mass shootings every weekend in Chicago. Why are you not focused on that? Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. Most of the shootings in Chicago are being carried out by handguns. I will argue that the gun laws here aren't the problem. There are plenty of cities in different countries, for that matter, where gun laws are lax and there aren't as many shootings or killings that we see here in Chicago. What needs to be looked at and acknowledged are the adverse socioeconomic effects that are being experienced by these communities. We're having a problem right now with gangs and gang retaliation killings and shootings. Who's the tougher gang? Who's the gang that's more respected on the street? Some of the reasons that these young black and brown kids are joining these gangs is for protection, it's for family, it's to try to make some money in a society that isn't allowing them to be legitimate breadwinners for their households. Stifling gun violence begins with education. It begins with jobs. It begins with investing in these communities. We have to show these young people that there's a better way to live. There's a better way to get out of the situation that they're in, that they don't have to repeat the cycle. They don't have to keep living this way. They don't have to keep moving the same way that they've been moving, that they've seen generations before them move. I have a lot to say on this topic, but I'll end it here. And I just hope that whoever's listening, it's made you think a little deeper about these problems and not just the superficial and all the noise about gun laws in general. Thank you.
So now we have heard from Officer Dorsey. We will now hear from my good friend Cynthia Marshall, who is currently working in a school district, and she will talk to us about how she feels about gun violence and her experience with it.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Marshall, and I am currently the receptionist slash administrative assistant for the Peiperl School. And gun violence to me is something that I feel like is tearing our world apart slowly but surely. It almost makes you kind of feel fearful for your life like every day, and it just sucks that we've come to a time in the world where guns are ruining everything. You can't even go to the store, you can't go to school, you can't go to church, you can't go anywhere really without being scared for your life. My experience with gun violence, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, in the inner city, so I've heard lots of guns being shot. I know there's a time where we were on one block for the 4th of July. And on the next street over, they were shooting guns, and so all the parents outside had to rush all their kids inside the building. And it really kind of scared me because it was like they were so close, and bullets can go flying everywhere. The bullet has no name on it, so it was just really kind of like, wow, like this is the world we live in. As far as the law, there are certain states that allow you to carry without having a permit. There are states that you have to have a permit. But it just makes it harder because people who should not have guns have possession of guns. And so gun violence overall it needs to stop. And I just hope that they can figure it out. I've kind of always wanted gun violence to go away ever since my brother was shot and killed in the 30s, and ever since then, like, it's just, I've had a bad relationship with guns. I don't like to see them. I don't like to know that people have them. It just really makes me kind of scared every time all over again, and it just brings up a bad memory. And so I honestly just don't feel like any and everybody should be carrying a gun around, if that makes sense. As far as how it affects schools, here recently, you kind of just gotta prepare for the worst when it comes to going to school. I know now Walmart is carrying bulletproof backpacks, and that should have never been the case, ever. Like, they have commercials that are like the Sandy Hook Promise that promote.
Okay, so now you guys will hear from my good friend Derek Plumer, who was eager to talk about this topic. He is someone that just loves history. This is his thing. So he wanted to chime in, and here's what he had to say.
So this is the thing. We see that, one, guns do kill people, obviously, and two, the people with the guns kill people. So we see a trend of men and women who obviously are not mentally stable enough to have a gun. Two, we see that these people are obtaining specific guns that don't even need to be on the street. And so we see people who are getting killed that, they're killing by the masses. And this is something that's been going on for a very long time, actually. But let me switch the topic. Specifically with Kansas City, I see a trend, I've seen a trend where gun violence has not been taken seriously. And so we've seen a trend, so specifically in Kansas City, during the 1980s, that's when the Crips had migrated from California to the Midwest. And so they reached Kansas City by 87, I believe. by 88 or 89, the what's it called? The drive-by shootings had doubled, okay? And then the murder rates had shot up by, I think, a half or a third within 1 year. And so for the past 15 to 20 years, we see a lot of people getting killed on Westport. East Side then blew the hell up. Kansas City has been a hot mess, you feel me? And we've been in the top 10, top 20 in the murder rate for many years. And so you really haven't seen any politicians really trying to combat that. And they have to a certain extent, but they really don't care. It's really a big money game, just like medicine. And politics is all about money. And nothing in the United States is going to change until you get some real mother effers in office, and that's just the truth.
And that is the end of this vlog. I hope you guys learned something, got some insight of other people's opinions and thoughts on gun violence. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.